What's up, Wavelings? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today I wanted to finally bring you my 8.1.5 Brawlers Guild guide for World of Warcraft. This will be a lengthier one, and this requires some fairly decent gear to complete, so be warned of that. I imagine this will be much easier when patch 8.2 rolls around, and it's much easier to get item level 400 gear, but time will tell. The mount for this version of the Brawlers Guild is actually behind a quest chain instead of being linked to just the brawls. If you want to unlock this awesome looking mount, Bruce, be sure to stick around to the end. I guess the more likely route is going to be skipping there, but we're going to ignore that. Anyway, after watching, make sure to leave a like and a comment on the video letting me know what you think, or even any comments with questions about the fights if you have any. I'll try to help where I can. If you liked the video or it helped you, make sure to get subscribed and maybe even hit that bell if you want to get notified of future videos. Also, something worth noting, you can't participate in the Brawlers Guild unless you are a member of it. The ways to become a member of it are to either find a blood-soaked invitation in the world from any number of enemies, typically more likely from named creatures. It's a low drop rate item, so be warned about that. You can also buy the invitation from A Shady in the Brawlpub or the Brawl'gar arena. Lastly, it can also be purchased from the auction house in the form of an item called the Brawler's Pass. Granted, you don't need any of these items if you were in the Brawlers Guild in the past. Anyway, that said, let's jump face first into the fights. The first fight of rank 1 is Bruce. The tried, the true, Bruce. Anyway, as you'd expect for the first fight, nothing crazy. Coming in at 477k health, he has only one ability. He uses an ability called Chomp 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 every few seconds, where he charges it up for 2 seconds, then bites 3 times over 1 second. Stay out from in front of him while he's using this ability, damage him down, and you should be good to go. The second fight of rank 1 is with Thog Hammerspace. Coming in at 620k health, Thog will repeatedly throw his hammers out backwards while fighting you, only to start casting the fifth hammer, where he will lay down hammers in front of him that will do damage to you. Any hammers in the area do damage to you when you touch them. While fighting him, avoid touching any hammers and you should be good to go. The third fight of rank 1 is with Grandpa Grumplefloot. At 381k health, he doesn't take much to kill. He will, however, be using 3 abilities and 3 summons. Song of Flute and Grumble Pack Explosion damage you, and Cantata of Fluting heals him. You need to interrupt Cantata of Fluting every time, as this heals a crazy amount for him. He'll also be summoning blue dolls called Good Lucky Do, and red ones called Lucky Don't. The blue ones heal you when you touch them, and the red ones instantly kill you. Also, he'll summon these neutral colored ones called Bad Lucky Do, which jump at you. Upon touching you, these instantly kill you. Our fourth and final fight of rank 1 is Ash Katsuum. He has 432k health, and will continuously cast his one ability, I Pick You, which summons random battle pets. When the battle pets are summoned, they move forward until hitting a wall, at which point they more or less ricochet. If the battle pets get near you, they will attack you. That said, their attacks do massive damage, so you're going to want to avoid them getting near you at all while you take down Ash Katsuum. With rank 1 complete, you can now move on to rank 2. The first fight of rank 2 is with Blat, who is a slime. He has 648k health and has one ability he uses. As the fight goes on, he will cast Split, where he will create copies of himself. You may be tempted to attack and or kill the copies, but don't do that, unless you're taking too much damage. There's no need to kill them, as only the original one counts towards the objective. Focus on the main one, kite to avoid some damage, and you should be good to go. After that is the second fight of rank 2, Phillip Carter Tracey. At 685k health, the health numbers are starting to get up there, and your DPS becomes increasingly important. As you fight him, he will constantly teleport behind you to use the ability Murderous Swipes, which deals significantly more damage from behind. As he casts this, you need to make sure you turn to face him to avoid these steep increases in damage. The current goal is to get him below 40% health. If you fail to reach that number in a timely fashion, he will root you and cast Fatal Ambush, summoning 2 copies of himself that each attack, dealing greatly increased damage from behind. Make sure you face them and you should be fine. At 40% health, he turns into a human with 2 abilities. Blazing Bullet, which can and should be interrupted, that silences you for 4 seconds. After attempting to use that ability, he will attempt to use Civilized Slap. This, if it lands, will deal a decent bit of damage and knock you back. Run away to avoid this. While in human form, he takes increased damage, so you want to hit hard at this point. Fight 3 of rank 2 is pretty easy. At 811k health, Johnny Awesome is a bit tanky, but his abilities aren't that hard to deal with. He will continuously cast Shoot, which is just a basic bow shot. All the while casting this, his pet Dazzle will be attacking you. At some point, he will cast Volley and or Power Shot. If he casts Volley, just make sure you move out of the way to avoid extra damage. If he casts Power Shot, position yourself on the opposite side of Dazzle from him. Hide behind Dazzle, and Johnny's Power Shot, which would normally instantly kill you, will kill Dazzle instead. That said, when the cat is dead, he will begin casting Revive Dazzle. While he is casting that spell, he takes increased damage. The fourth and final fight of rank 2 is Mama Stormstout. At 553k health, she's a bit less tanky than the other brawls so far. That said, she will use 2 abilities frequently that need to be taken into consideration. She will cast Smash Turn, which coats an area on the floor in hot grain. She will also cast Cold Crash, which sends a wave across the arena. When she is about to cast Cold Crash, you need to run onto the piles of grain. This will damage you, but if you are not on some of the grains as the wave comes by, you will freeze and quickly die. With rank 2 now complete, you can not only move on to rank 3, but you can now also buy Clockham and Tyler Grondon from your faction's quartermaster. The first fight of rank 3 is the returning easy Oso. Oso has 614k health and 3 abilities: Claustrophobic, Grizzly Leap, and Shotgun Roar. He's not too dissimilar from last time, but I'll still go over him for newcomers to the brawl. For Shotgun Roar, he will rear back and come down, dealing damage in a cone in front of him. You will want to avoid that. For Grizzly Leap, he'll literally mark a huge circle on the ground where you are, designating where he will next leap. Just avoid that. I don't think I ever saw him use Claustrophobic, but it will damage you and knock you back if you are hit. After Oso comes Klunk, the second fight of rank 3. Klunk is a big magnetic golem type thing with 615k health. All he will do is try to pull you in and whip you with electricity. You will see him cast an ability called Klunk, which slowly pulls you in toward him. While he does this, it's fine to be in the circle to damage him, just make sure you're out of the circle when it finishes. That said, also steer clear of being directly in front of him, as when he finishes he will also do this electric whip type move. Each successive time he casts Klunk, he will get faster and faster at casting it, and he will pull you in harder. So you want to kill him as fast as possible. This is a bit of a DPS check, but unless you're lower than 365 item level, I really don't see this being an issue. I was 374 when I did it, and I did it as Guardian with around 5 to 8k DPS. Following Klunk is the third fight of rank 3, Farmer Xiang-Su. With 1.4 million health, he's going to take a bit more focus than the previous fights have. While fighting him, he will periodically use this ability, Watering Can, to send water in a line in front of him. When this water hits the various dirt patches around the arena, either yummy veggies or infested veggies will spawn. Additionally, the water does a significant amount of damage to you, so avoid that, though it doesn't instantly kill you. The 2 different types of veggies do different things when you walk over them, but the thing to consider is that they also affect Xiang-Su. The yummy veggies look like a big head of lettuce, and the infested veggies look like a big rotten pumpkin. Running over the yummy veggies will increase your damage by 10%, while running over infested veggies will increase your damage taken by 10%. These effects also stack. You will want to drag him through the infested veggies where you can, while running through the yummy veggies yourself to defeat him. After completing that, we can move on to Ahoo'ru, the fourth fight of rank 3. At 380k health, he might not seem like much. Ahoo'ru is a frustrating fight and will be the first mechanically heavy one. Once you spawn in the arena with him, you are able to damage him prior to him activating his shield. You should do this before he reaches the center. After he reaches the center, he will gain 3 stacks of a shield and many glowing orbs will spawn which deal a ton of damage to you if you pass through them. You will need to avoid running through those. While avoiding them, Ahoo'ru will cast little orbs of light to them which will make them become shinier ones. Upon running through the shinier ones, a creature called an Avenging Angel will spawn. You'll need to damage the angels to below 50% health because when you do, they'll charge toward you. Make sure you are close to Ahoo'ru for this when the cast finishes, then move away to safety, or you may be able to stay close and take the damage if you are tanky enough. When the angel reaches its destination, it explodes. This will take one of the 3 charges of Ahoo'ru's shield away. After doing this 3 times, Ahoo'ru's shield will break and he will cast Divine Circle, spawning orbs around you. You'll need to run out of the circle, attempting to hit as few of the circles as possible. Each time you touch an orb, it applies a stacking damage over time effect to you, so you'll want to avoid getting too many of those on you. At this point, you will want to fight him as normal, burning him as quickly as you can. He will be mostly auto-attacking you at this point, but he will periodically recast Divine Circle and sometimes try to cast Complete Heal. It should be very clear by the name that interrupting the Complete Heal spell is imperative, and a requirement to win. You can see I was only barely able to finish the fight actually completing it after I already died. So make sure you're geared well for this. Also worth noting, if your particles are down low, you can't see the orbs in the first phase. This was confusing and I just figured I'd put the PSA out there. With rank 3 now complete, you can not only move on to rank 4, but you can now also buy the Pugilist Powerful Punching Ring from your faction's quartermaster. This ring teleports you to your faction's Brawlers Guild arena when you use it. Additionally, you should receive a Brawler's Pass in the mail, allowing you to grant someone else access to the Brawlers Guild. Getting into rank 4, we'll start with Ouroboros. At first, he will be a small worm with 76k health, which you'll need to damage. He'll descend into the ground and come back up as his true form, which boasts 761k health. At this point, he will cast Umbral Torrent, which will leave several purple pools around the arena. Walking over those will deal a decent bit of damage and slow your movement speed, so you'll want to avoid them. He'll then begin to auto-attack you. At this point, it's pretty straightforward, but he'll cast a few abilities. Dark Outpour casts a beam in front of him as he spins around the room. Being in this beam will deal some damage, so of course you'll want to avoid that. All while doing this, he will periodically cast Eldritch Blast, which will cause a beam of crackling energy to streak forward in the direction he is facing. This does a lot of damage, so you'll want to avoid it. The last thing to worry about is if you stand too far away, he will cast Dark Retch at you, which does a pretty decent amount of damage. You'll want to stay medium to close range with him during this fight. Following Ouroboros is our second fight of rank 4, Sanoriak. He comes complete with 763k health and a few easy to avoid abilities. While attacking him, he will regularly cast Fireball, which doesn't do much damage, so you can ignore it when he casts it. Additionally, he will cast Pyroblast, which actually does do a lot of damage, and you'll need to interrupt this. Then the most annoying thing to avoid is when he casts Firewall, where he will summon a fiery square around you with one wall missing. Super Hexagon style, you'll need to quickly move out of the square without traversing through the fire to ensure you don't instantly die. Following this fight is the 540k health third fight of rank 4, the Spymaster. As soon as you get into the arena, you will want to take your surroundings into consideration while damaging the Spymaster. There will be a grid of 9 things in a 3x3 fashion. A frog, a chicken, a furnace, a corgi, a candle, an octopus, a dining table with food, a turtle, and a wasp. While fighting him, he will say, "I spy," and then some description of an item around the arena, such as a waxy treasure that kobolds covet for the candle, or a furry friend to cuddle for live-action Sonic, the corgi. After he says what he spies for, you'll need to run to that thing and stand by it. After a timer, flames will engulf the rest of the arena. The flame doesn't instantly kill you, but it will deal a decent bit of damage. At any time, he will be using the ability Master Stroke on you. This ability will deal damage and knock you back. He can move you out of the safe area when he uses this, so make sure you avoid being in front of him when the ability finishes. When the Spymaster has 40% or lower health, he will blind you to a certain distance. You'll be best to memorize where the things were prior to this phase. You can still see, but the area you see is massively reduced. The fight is still functionally the same, however. Following that is an easy fourth fight of rank 4, the Warhammer Council. This fight will consist of 3 dwarves, each of which having a little over 1,000,000 health. The fortunate thing, however, is the fact that they all 3 share that health pool. So any AoE damage you do that hits them is basically triple damage, and dots can be stacked on each of them to do triple ticks of damage. Each dwarf has their own ability they cast. Arstad, the blue one, will cast Lightning Crash, where he will charge at you and stun you. Altor, the dark armored Dark Iron Dwarf, will cast Lava Burst. This will just do some fire damage. Lastly, Ulrich, the Warrior Dwarf, will continuously cast Whirlwind, dealing AoE damage. Also worth noting, there will periodically be molten slag on the ground, which you'll need to avoid. Anyway, just mind those mechanics and clean up the fight. With rank 4 complete, you can now not only move on to rank 5, but you can also now purchase the ugly but still collectible Brawler's Guild tabards. Additionally, you'll get another Brawler's Pass, from the achievement, the second rule of Brawler's Guild. Moving on to rank 5, if the dwarves before weren't easy enough, Meatball is the first fight of rank 5. He has a ginormous pool of 4,000,000 health, but don't get overwhelmed by that. Keep him moving and make sure you're maintaining constant attacks on him. This will cause these purple orbs to fly out of him. The purple orbs can be walked over by you to gain a stacking buff which grants 20% increased damage per stack. This can stack up to 50 times, so basically smack him and run around until you have 50 stacks. This should put you at 1000% increased damage, effectively turning that 4,000,000 into 400k. Try to get the 50 stacks as quickly as possible, then down him quickly. At some point in the fight, he will use Meatball Mad, in which his attack speed will be increased and he will deal much more damage. Following Meatball is Millie Watt, the second fight of rank 5 at 803k health. This is the first real bump I had to my ability to handle these fights. Granted, I should have been using potions and drums to help out with previously, but this ended up being the point I had to switch to Feral instead of Guardian, as I couldn't maintain high enough damage to complete the fight. While most absolutely certainly definitely not the most frustrating fight, this was one of the more frustrating fights. Millie has 4 abilities she will use on you. She will spam you with Electric Dynamite, which creates an electrical circle on the ground, which you need to avoid, as it does a lot of damage. That said, the only other ability you need to worry about is Mega Fantastic Discamabi Morphinator. You'll be turned into a chicken before you can figure out how to pronounce that word yourself. The ability turns you into a mechanical chicken, at which point you'll take a ton of damage unless you are in the electrical circles. If you are in one, you'll be popped back out of the chicken form, but still take damage from the circle. Other than that, just DPS the fight down. The third fight of rank 5 comes in at 963k health as Tidemaster Shellbreaker. This fight isn't that hard, but it's very annoying. Joining your side is Chubo and his son Chibo. Chubo does significant damage which will prove useful, but you'll need to damage Shellbreaker yourself too. All the while, Chubo's lobotomite of a son will be walking around in circles until he sees something in the arena that is explicitly dangerous for him, at which point he'll proceed toward it, happily seeking his own and your death. Your goal is to complete the fight while protecting Chibo. If for any reason Chibo takes damage from any of the effects that Shellbreaker creates, Chubo will instantly stop attacking her and start attacking you in the fit of rage for not protecting his dumbass son. Anyway, that obvious irritation out of the way, Shellbreaker uses spells to summon 3 things: Poisonous pufferfish will not move, but you can right-click them to take a small amount of damage over time, preventing Chibo from pursuing them to do the same. Likewise, a tantalizing flame summons a fiery spot on the ground, which will draw Chibo like a moth to a flame. You can walk over these fiery spots to take the damage so Junior doesn't mung it all up. The last summon is Piranado, in which a watery column will spawn and move about, presumably with invisible piranhas in it. Obviously, Chibo touching this is game over, but worse so if you touch it, it's pretty much game over. The column flings you into the air, causing you to land back down and take falling damage. Furthermore, when you land, you'll probably be still inside the Piranado, at which point you'll proceed to be, of course, flung back up into the air only to take more falling damage. In my experience, touching one of these is almost certain death. And she summons them very quickly out of absolutely nowhere, too. Anyway, let's move on. Mingus Diggs, the 4th fight of rank 5. There's 840k health in total, but this is spread out in an odd way. There's 4 towers in the fight, 1 in each corner. They each repeatedly cast a stacking debuff on you that deals damage over time in different elements. That said, when you are close to a statue, the statue can't cast it on you, and the debuff will go away. All this while Mingus is invincible until you destroy all the towers. The strategy I'm about to give is good if your damage or your health is a little lower like mine was. You'll want to start on one tower and destroy it completely, then move on to the second tower and get it to about 50% health. Then move on to the third one until that tower's debuff goes away, then switch to the last one. Damage that tower down to 50%, then switch back to the second tower and destroy it. Then destroy the third tower, then switch to the fourth tower to destroy it. After all towers are destroyed, just burn down Mingus. With rank 5 complete, not only can you progress to rank 6, but you now also have access to the VIP room without needing a rental form, which is useful for the Murder Mystery questline. Moving on to rank 6, we can start the first fight, Nibbleh, a snake with right at 1,000,000 health. The fight is not too challenging, but may take a couple of tries if you don't plan correctly or if your damage is too low. Taking inspiration after the old game Snake, Nibbleh will follow you, leaving a trail behind him which will kill you. Differentiating though, he will periodically cast out more spots for the trail to land outside of where he has traversed. These make navigating a little difficult. Additionally, if he stays in that trail at all, meaning you stop moving, he will start to gain a stacking buff which increases the damage he does with attacks by 50% per stack, increasing his size per stack, and decreasing the damage he takes by 5%. You'll want to get to his corner, switching to walking speed instead of running speed, and walk backwards while facing him. Either go in a zigzag pattern or in a spiral pattern around the arena, minding where the asset is located. You should be good to go if you follow that. Following Nibbleh, you'll fight Stitches as the second fighter rank 6, who has a similar amount of health. While fighting Stitches, he will pull you to him, giving you a stack of the debuff Stitches Hook. He has a green area around him that is his Aura of Rot. The Aura of Rot will give you a stacking debuff with the same name that deals minor damage. If that debuff reaches 10 stacks, you die instantly. If you leave the aura for just a moment, you will lose all stacks of the Rot debuff, then be pulled back in. When he pulls you, you will again get a stack of the Hook debuff, which also kills you at 10 stacks. You'll want to aim at a healthy balance of waving in and out to do damage to him while keeping yourself alive. Also, I couldn't quite figure out what it was that was doing this, but if you skirt the edges of his aura, for some reason the Rot debuff will seemingly randomly have its stacks removed. Additionally, you can stun him, so if you need to get away for a moment to say heal yourself, feel free to stun him. Coming in as the third fight of rank 6, Robe-Robber Robert is a bit easier than we've been used to, despite what his 5 million health would suggest. This guy, for whatever reason, likes to steal your clothes. He will periodically cast Disrobing Strike on you, which will remove a piece of gear from you. If you interrupt this or stun him, the effect is instead placed on him. Additionally, if you or he goes into these columns, also known as strip storms, the person who entered it will lose a piece of gear that way too. In total, he is wearing 7 pieces of gear: hat, jacket, vest, second vest, shirt, and pants. Once you manage to remove each piece of gear, he will gain the debuff Shame, which will cause him to take 1000% damage, effectively converting that 5 million health into 500k. The fourth fight of rank 6 is Mecha-Bruce. This fight took me quite a while and really pissed me off, being very difficult to complete at first. I didn't expect the terribleness that was the next fight though, but that's yet to be seen. Mecha-Bruce, coming in at just north of 1 million health, has 4 abilities you'll be looking at focusing on. As opposed to normal Bruce's ability Chomp Chomp Chomp, Mecha-Bruce has the ability Chomp 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 Chomp. For future reference, I'm not saying that again, we'll just call it Chomp from here on out. In addition to that, he also has Better, Stronger, Faster, and Stasis Beam. After you start the fight, go into the far right corner and he will follow you there, immediately casting Chomp. Note the cast timer for the ability and the duration for its effect. Make sure you move behind him so he cannot affect you, all the while maintaining constant damage on him. Immediately after finishing the cast, he will begin casting Better, Stronger, Faster. Again, note the cast timer. Damage him until you don't have any time left and head to the opposite corner. He will immediately after this be casting Stasis Beam. Last one, make sure you know how long it takes to cast. After this ability finishes, you will be stunned for something like 4 or 5 seconds, then he will run toward you. Upon reaching you, he will cast Chomp again, and you'll notice it will be faster. Then the entire cycle repeats. The reason I pointed out the times of the abilities is that they will all get faster as he does repeat casts of better, stronger, faster. That makes this harder and harder and absolutely a DPS check. You will need to burn him down as quickly as you can. With rank 6 complete, not only can you now progress into the next and final rank of 7, you can now also... well, no, that's just it. There's no extra rewards for finishing rank 6. Moving on to rank 7 then. For our first contender of the final rank 7, we have the big, the bad, probably the most monstrously and terribly frustrating fight in this entire f***ing arena, Mega-Mecha Seagull X9000, who will henceforth be known as X9. Part of this is from me sucking, but part of it is absolutely the fact that this is an insidiously frustrating fight. Fortunately, the one time I managed to beat this boss, my recording software managed to just, not record the fight until literally after I won, so that was pretty epic. So while I express my distress over this fight and explain how to fight it, enjoy a montage of me dying repeatedly. Mechanically, it's not even that hard, it's just the numbers that are so hard on you if you're not extremely well geared. The single fight literally held me up for 11 days. Basically, my point is, be warned of the difficulty. Anyway, he has around 1.15 million health and uses some awful abilities in tandem with each other. The first of which is Mecha-Treagull, which isn't that bad. When X9 finishes casting this ability, he will spawn a little tree with seagulls on it. A fiery beam is coming out of the bottom of the tree on 4 different sides. It is imperative that you are out of range of these beams by the time they activate. The tree will be spawned directly on top of you, and you have a second where you can move before they activate. I'm not sure about other specs and classes, but in the case of Feral Druid, being in range of the beam when it goes off is a guaranteed loss. Anyway, after that is the ability Mecha-Weagull. When X9 casts this, it spawns a small horde of 4 Mecha-Weagulls, which have 40.3k health each. They don't individually do a ton of damage, but they do a lot together. And the more X9 summons, the harder these are exponentially if they are not at least somewhat dealt with. In addition to all of this, Mecha-Beagle isn't that bad as long as you keep an eye on where you're walking. This ability summons a Mecha-Beagle which will fly toward you very slowly with a circle aura around it. Once you enter this circle, you will be disoriented for 5 seconds. If by the end of this you are still alive somehow, and are also inside the circle still, you will be hit with another 5-second disorient, either until you are out of it or you are dead. Worsening matters, especially with Mecha-Beagle around, X9 will use the ability Blinding Peck. This is a casted ability, but at the end of the cast, you are dealt damage and disoriented for 2 seconds. The damage is really minimal, but the 2-second disorient leaves you open to a lot of damage and can lead you into the Mecha-Beagles, which is pretty much game over. As if all this wasn't bad enough, the boss will periodically cast Tune-Up instantly, causing him to increase his damage and attack speed. That's all of the abilities in BS, but what about a strategy? The strategy that finally worked for me was to pull him into the far right corner upon starting the arena, popping all cooldowns, bursting him down as quickly as I can until he summons a tree. Then move aside for the tree to be placed. Upon moving, make sure you get to another corner so you can repeat the process. Make absolutely sure that you are doing at least some sort of tertiary damage to the Mecha-Weagulls as they are summoned, so that hopefully you can kill some or even get some benefits from them dying, whatever your class and spec is. Make sure at all times to be avoiding the trees and then making your main focus damaging the boss as hard as possible, while maintaining a visual about where the arena's Mecha-Beagles are so as to avoid them and the certain death they will ensue. That all said, while I don't have a recording of my victory with this fight, please enjoy this clip of me after beating the boss expressing my joy. That beast out of the way, let's move on to the second fight of rank 7, Fran and Riddoh. This fight was pretty easy, but I don't know how much of an advantage being a druid gives me on this one. There are 2 enemies, Fran at 391k and Riddoh at 563k health. This is supposedly a reference to Game of Thrones for those of you out there who watch that. I don't watch it so I don't know, it's just what I read. But that said, strategy. The following are the abilities used in the fight, which really aren't that demanding. Fran will use Throw Dynamite, which deals minimal damage. Riddoh will cast Throw Net, which roots you for about 5 seconds. That's where I had an advantage as a druid, as druids can shapeshift to get out of roots. Usually following this net, but not always, Fran will create what is called a Goblin Device, where a bunch of landmines appear around you. These form a shape that can usually allow safe passage pretty much easily between landmines to get out of the area, which you should try and do. They do some damage, but not a monstrous amount unless you hit them multiple. Lastly, if you kill Fran before killing Riddoh, Riddoh will turn into Frenzied Riddoh, increasing his damage by 250%. With AoEs available, I strongly recommend just trying to down them around the same time, focusing on Riddoh since he has more health. Following Fran and Riddoh is the third fight of rank 7, who is the returning Blackmange, who comes back with 1.15 million health. Quick and very easy fight, especially this late in the game. Basically, there are 2 things to worry about with this fight. Charge! And Cannon Blast! Burst him down like whatever other fight, but mind the trails of gunpowder to the cannons while you fight him. When the spark at the end reaches the cannon will fire. If you are in that line when it fires, you instantly die. Not too big a deal. I just try to bounce back and forth between 2 where possible and shift to a third one if I can't do 2. With charge, he will charge at you, obviously, doing minimal damage to you and repositioning himself. Supposedly, it's supposed to also knock you back, but it wasn't doing that to me. If it does knock you back, just be mindful of your position. Nothing much more to him than that. Following that is the 4th fight of rank 7. The last fight in the Brawlers Guild. Ogrewatch. Returning from Legion's Brawlers Guild, yes, this is of course a reference to Overwatch. This fight is not mechanically difficult, but it's got a couple of things to look out for. The fight will start off with Hudson shielding the party. This can easily be damaged or, better yet, entirely mitigated by stunning him. During this fight, you'll want to avoid these grenades or bombs that Stuffshrew is shooting at you, as they'll instantly kill you. Additionally, you'll want to maintain a safe distance from Stuffshrew, as he will cast Maniacal Laugh if you are too close, instantly killing you. Eliminate the shield, then get on Dupree and burn him down before High Noon finishes. If High Noon finishes, you instantly die. Following the elimination of Dupree, you want to focus on Hudson. Hudson is basically useless, using Tesla Cannon to do next to 0 damage and casting Jump Hack, which seems not to do anything. After downing Hudson, of course, you'll be aimed at Stuffshrew. Burn him down maintaining distance when he casts Maniacal Laugh, and you should be good to go. With rank 7 complete, not only are you finished with all the brawls, you also now have the title of Brawler. The achievement Brawler for Azeroth, and a couple of items can now be bought from the Quartermaster. You can now buy the heirloom fist weapon, Brawler's Razor Claws, and the Transmog set, Ensemble Brawlers Guild. Okay. Brawls done. Murder Mystery Questline. After finishing the brawls, we'll want to move on to the Murder Mystery Questline for the Mount Bruce. There are 21 quests in total. Most of them aren't too much of a fuss to complete, but a few are rather challenging, which is why I recommend starting this earlier rather than later, especially if the Mount is your focus. I'll only be showing video for the Alliance, but the questline is pretty similar for Horde. Use in-game highlights in the minimap for guidance to locations for Horde. That said, the first quest is, of course, Murder at the Brawlpub for the Alliance and Murder at the Brawl'gar Arena for Horde. This quest will have you talking to the corpse of Quackenbush for the Alliance or Paul North for Horde, after which you'll need to do 3 things. Inspect the body, which involves finding the blade, search for additional clues, which involves finding a scroll, inspect the nearby area, which involves finding an empty supply crate. Then if you're Alliance, you'll be talking to Solara Fizzlesprang, then turning the quest into Commander Dalo. If you're Horde, you'll be talking to Stoneguard Mullavox, then turning the quest into Commander Arlu Ravenhide. Following this is the quest Put Up Your Dukes, which has you winning 3 fights in the Brawlpub or the Brawl'gar Arena. If you haven't started your matches yet, this shouldn't be a problem, but if you have and you're fairly late in this like I was, I found it easiest to just fight Bruce 3 times since he's silly easy to fight. After that, turn it back into your respective commander and pick up Undercover Agent and Dennyson for the Alliance, or Sharasandra for Horde. Then you'll be talking to the person who is named in the quest, turning that in, and then picking up the Financial Participation Incentive. For the Financial Participation Incentive, you'll need to win 100 Brawlers Gold via gambling. Depending on how active your server is at the time and how good or bad the people are fighting, this can be really easy or really tedious and slow. To do this quest, you'll need to purchase the High Rollers contract from your respective gold exchange vendor, and turn that into Harold G. Goldsprocket for the Alliance, or Slick Bixie for Horde. After that, talk to Harold or Bixie again at the beginning of other players' brawls, and bet on who you think will win between the player and their enemy. My advice would be to find someone you know and do this quest together, and just chain kill Bruce while betting on your friend. The reason I suggest this is you can expect consistent output that way. Furthermore, when you have consecutive successful bets, the amount of gold you get stacks. Starting at 5 gold for the first successful bet, 10 for the second, 15 for the third, and so on and so forth. You do still get 1 gold if your bet is wrong though. You should complete that with 6 consecutive successful bets. After you get your gold, turn that into Lord Winifred Brown for the Alliance, or Pit Boss Bucksdoggle for Horde. From there, pick up a favor for your old chum Winifred, or old pal Bucksdoggle depending on your faction. This will have you losing a fight. For this, literally just get in a brawl and lose. You can just sit there still and let them kill you. After finishing and turning that in, pick up Lord Brown or the Pit Boss's debts. For this quest, you'll need to visit your faction's card trader and pick up the card for Lord Silithrill. Give that to your bouncer and beat Lord Silithrill in the brawl. Loot his huge pile of legitimately earned Brawler's Gold and turn that in for the quest. From there, return to your Ann Dennyson or Sharasandra depending on your faction to pick up Evidence Packet Lord Winifred Brown or Pit Boss Bucksdoggle respectively. Turn this in to your faction's commander. Pick up Undercover Agent Sarlar Fizzlespring or Stoneguard Mullavox depending on your faction and turn that into the respective NPC. At this point, you'll talk to Shadowmaster O'Flaherty if you're Alliance, or Shadowmaster Skrizzik if you're Horde. Talking to them will give you the quest Soul Splinters. This is more or less a quest to beat 10 to 12 brawls. Each successful brawl will give you around 10 Soul Splinters, except in the case of Rumbles, which give around 25 Soul Splinters. I advise against doing the Rumbles for this, as they're just not worth the difficulty for the Splinters, and they're on a 3-hour cooldown behind a 500 Brawlers Gold wall. Plus, you'll have to do 3 in the next quest anyway. Anyway, completing your brawls and collecting the Soul Splinters, you'll turn that quest back into your Shadowmaster and pick up Super Soul Splinters. For Super Soul Splinters, you'll want to complete Rumbles, for the Rumbler's Purses, which will contain 1 Super Soul Splinter. Most of the rumbles are fairly challenging, but the one I found most doable was the Penguin Stampede solo. Rumbles will pull in everyone who is queued in the arena, so if there are other people around, be warned that the rumbles interact differently depending on the number of people in the rumble. For Penguin Stampede, a penguin named Slippy with 1.1 million health is spawned for each player in the rumble. This rumble is basically impossible with multiple random people due to no one knowing what's going on or expecting it. You'll almost certainly fail the rumble in this case. However, if you do it solo, it's fairly easy, but you have to have fairly high DPS. You need to down the 1.1 million health in the 2-minute window you're given. While Slippy is within range, he will constantly cast an uninterruptible, unstunnable ability called Peck. If this successfully goes off, his target instantly dies. However, each time you hit him either with an auto attack or ability, it restarts his cast of this ability after being knocked back. That is not, however, the case if his back is against the wall. If his back is against the wall, he can't be interrupted by the attacks or the abilities, and will cast the ability and you'll surely die. It's best to keep him away from the wall for this reason. In the not terribly unlikely event that you fail to complete a rumble, don't worry. I'm not sure why this is the case, but when you fail a rumble, you can still get the Rumbler's Purse if you go into a brawl after failing and win. I recommend Slippy with a Bruce Chaser to get your purses if needed. Anyway, completing and turning that back in, you'll be able to pick up Cause for Concern, heading you back to Fizzle Spring or Molavox depending on your faction. Turning that quest in grants you the quest, the Precious 13-Tooth Goggle Gear, which will have you fighting an old brawl, GG Engineering. You can purchase their card from your faction's card trader. This fight is pretty easy. Bobble and Max Mega Blast, a Goblin and Gnome pair, is what the brawl is about fighting, and they share a 1.3 million health pool. You want to maintain dots on them and just AoE in general to maximize damage, since you'll basically be doing double damage. As you're fighting Max Mega Blast, he'll be continuously casting Goblin Rocket Barrage, which will shoot a rocket at a spot on the ground, which you can easily avoid. You can also aim the rockets at Bobble, which is useful. Bo casts Gnomish Death Ray, which I don't think does anything. They both can emergency teleport to the various energy shields in the corners. Anyone in the energy shields don't take any damage, both you and the enemies. That said, you'll want to destroy the shield generators to be able to damage them. After killing them, you'll be given the GG gearbox containing the 13-Tooth Goggle Gear, which you can then turn into Fizzle Spring or Molavox. Following this, she'll give you the quest, the Fizzle Spring or Molavox Goggle Experiment. To do this quest, you'll need to go into a brawl and use the goggles provided by the quest, where you'll see this old god visage and get the quest completion. Clean up for the fight and turn that in. She'll give you the quest Evidence Packet, Shadowmaster O'Flannerty, or Skrizzik. Turn that in to your faction's commander to pick up Undercover Agents Silent Jusso or Nug Lumbo. For this one and some upcoming quests, you'll need to have access to the VIP room. To be there without getting teleported, you'll need to do one of two things. The first thing is that you can buy the VIP room rental form, which will grant you 10 minutes of VIP room access for 1,000 Brawlers Gold. This is a humongous waste of Brawlers Gold though, as once you complete all of rank 5, you will be given access to the VIP room for free permanently. I'd recommend going that route, but you do you. Anyway, once you have access to the VIP room, you can now talk to Jusso or Nug to turn this quest in. After that, you can pick up Flaunt It if you got it from either Grant Lazarby for Alliance or Libiara Blightrunner for Horde. This quest will have you doing a couple of odd things. The first is drink a bottle of Moneybrow, which is literally heading back and buying a bottle of Moneybrow from your faction's rare luxury and drink vendor for 1,000 gold and drinking it. The second is to buy a round of drinks from your gold exchange vendor. For this quest, you'll need to buy the item Free Drinks voucher for 1,000 Brawlers Gold and turn that into your faction's barkeep. Lastly, after of course getting completely schlonked off free alcohol, is hitting a player with an Amberseed bun while in the VIP lounge. Again, you'll need access to the VIP room for this, but once you're up there, you can buy Amberseed buns from your faction's luxury food vendor. Once you get that, wait for a player to be in the brawl beside yourself and throw a bun and hit them, then turn the quest in. Pick up Simply Dying of Boredom, then place the Brawlpub or Brawl'gar Arena sign where the quest tells you. Trade District and Stormwind for Alliance, and Valley of Strength and Orgrimmar for Horde. After that, turn it in. Pick up Evidence Packet Grant Lazarby or Libiara Blightrunner from Jusso or Nug respectively, then turn that in to your commander. He'll give you the absolutely silly quest called the Brawlpub or Brawl'gar Trial. After you get that, talk to him and tell him you are ready to testify. Let's go to court. This will have you teleported into the arena to testify against the people who you have gathered evidence packets for. I found some people having big issues with this on the Alliance version of this quest, so bear that in mind. I'll link to the quest in the description below for anyone having issues. That said, I'll lay out the steps for this quest. The first step is opening statements, after which you'll be called to sit in the witness chair. The next step is to testify against the various people you have evidence packets for. I'm super basic on this, so I didn't really pay attention to the story going on and had no idea what the correct testifications were, and I kinda just hit them randomly or whatever seemed funniest. I'm probably pretty stupid for that, but that's beside the point. According to someone on the Brawl'gar trial Wowhead page comments, the testifications actually do matter or you'll get booted out of the trial. That said, I'll give the order I used as well as the order they suggested. The order Kylie on Wowhead used should be on screen now, and this is for the Brawl'gar trial. Here's following the options I picked for the Brawlpub trial. For testifying against Lord Winifred Brown, I chose yes to the first question, betting slip for the second question, yes for the third question, Deep in Debt for the 4th question, Lord Celesthril for the 5th question, then you have to fight Lord Winifred Brown. For testifying against Shadowmaster O'Flaherty, I chose Confession for the 1st question, Yes to the 2nd question, Hat for the 3rd question, and Invisible Shadow Monster for the 4th question. For testifying against Grant Lazarby, I chose Half-Eaten Amberseed Bun for the 1st question, and No to the 2nd question. The last part is cross-examination where you'll have to pick who did it. I picked Lord Winifred Brown since he was already dead. Then the gold exchange vendor comes in and suggests you were the person who killed the quartermaster. Then I picked yes for the 1st question, no for the 2nd question, which is when they said I was lying, which I was. After that, Just So showed up and the gold exchange vendor's dumbass runs through a table to get a letter from him and the quest is complete. After you finish this, turn it into your commander. Your commander will give you the quest A Clue from Area 52, which has you flying to Area 52, of course, where you'll find Bismo, the real Bismo. Or, well, if you're Alliance anyway. It'll be Basil Flange if you're Horde. But it's the same deal. Talk to them and tell them what's happened, then you'll turn that quest into them. After all that, they'll give you the quest Solving the Mystery, which will have you challenging and defeating a mystery brawler. Which isn't really a mystery brawler, it's just Zen Salish. He'll be talking for the first about 8 seconds, during which time you definitely can and should damage him, and I strongly recommend it, as this guy does a ton of damage and has a decent bit of health. After that, he'll cast Consume Essence on you, which does shadow damage over time and slows your movement speed. After that, he'll just be auto-attacking you for a while, and after a while will cast Riftwalk. This will create an area on the ground which you should avoid, because at the end of his cast, he will teleport to the center of it and cast Void Burst. This spell sends out a bunch of shadowy orbs that do huge amounts of shadow damage and cause you to take increased shadow damage upon being hit. After this, he returns to auto-attacks until he's ready to cast Consume Essence or Riftwalk again. Continue all this until you kill him. After killing him, turn that quest into your commander, and boom, now you've got Bruce. And that's finally it. All the Brawlers Guild's brawls for Battle for Azeroth. Not only that, but also the first brawl, Bruce as a mount. This was a journey. Anyway, if you liked the video, be sure to let me know by leaving a like down below, and then commenting after that and letting me know what you thought. If you really enjoyed the video and want to show some love for it, why not consider subscribing and hitting that bell to stay notified of future uploads. This has been your Wavelord. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.